Democrat, I'm proud that this state's running record surpluses, record low unemployment, record job growth. 3/4 of the jobs in America in February came from just the state of California. 3/4 of the jobs in America. So we believe in fiscal discipline. We believe in transparency and accountability. And so it's incumbent as we distribute these monies that we are accountable to those dollars being spent, and they're wisely spent at the same time. Because I am not naive that just throwing money at a problem without changing the system of delivery is not going to solve this problem. So we have a systemic approach to solving this problem. Accountability at the local level, support at the state level, and a frame of focus of accountability and responsibility, the likes of which the state has never seen. Final point. Next few days, we're going to be bringing out, I did an emergency declaration of sorts, not in legal terms, but emphasizing the nature of this crisis from an emergency frame, an executive order where we're bringing out 100 FEMA trailers throughout the state of California, targeting some of the larger encampments across the state. We're bringing out medical units and tents that we use in post-disasters. We are dealing with this as if it is what it is, a disaster. And this is resources, these are resources coming from the Camp Fire in Butte County. 42 of those trailers are currently being occupied by residents of Camp Fire. They will be transitioning up there. 58 others are going to be distributed, many later this week. So you're going to see the state assert itself in ways it never has in the past. Trailers, state property we're turning over. We identified 1,330 excess parcels of land in the state of California. We believe there are a minimum 100 ready to go in real time to transition and turn over to the cities and the counties to immediately set up facilities, some temporary, and we hope many permanent, to address this crisis. So that's the totality of what we're doing, or at least the totality of what I'm, of the time you're looking, anxious, I recognize, because I keep going, but it gives you a sense of, I think, the comprehensive, I should say, nature of our approach as we move into this new year. And I just want the public to know we get it, and now it's incumbent upon us to get it done.
Governor, you mentioned the economy. Why do you believe the crisis is getting worse when you, at the same time, mentioned that the economy is doing as well as...
Cost of living. I mean, you got a third of people working in the state of California for full-time earning less than minimum wage. You've got, by one estimate, I saw a study, 22% of those folks working minimum wage have bachelor degrees. You got an economy where people are running in place, wanting 2, 3 jobs. And many of them, because they're classified as independent contractors and independent of any support structure, don't have the benefits of workers' comp, health care, retirement security. And as a consequence, are quite literally, and not figuratively, we use it as rote, it's almost cliched, one paycheck away from being out on the streets and then no capacity to get back on their feet. And so that's why I think fundamentally we're struggling in the state. And that's decades in the making, underdeveloping housing, lack of accountability in that space, supply demand. It's not complicated. It's 7th grade econ. It's Econ 101. Supply demand mismatch, drive up costs, and those costs are impacting this issue in historic ways.
When it comes to changing the system, as you said, they talked about some new things here in Riverside. You have the emergency shelters. They have 10 tiny homes. The Habitat for Humanity is coming with, so that's housing. But in talking to some of the people camped out on the street right now, obviously you have substance abuse and you have mental health. I talked to one guy who says he keeps falling out of the mental health problems because they give him medication that makes him woozy, then he gets beat up out there. So when you talk about changing the system, what are some things you see that work and don't work when it comes to mental health? That's the big.
Well, we have substantially underfunded our behavioral health system for decades now, going back quite literally to time around my birth. And as a consequence, our rhetoric has never matched the reality. There's been a gap, and it's built over years and years and years, and it manifests across the country, not just in the state of California, but it's most acute in this subpopulation, those that are out in the streets and sidewalks. Those that are chronic, defined by over 365 days a year, are more likely to develop behavioral health issues and then more likely to self-medicate as a consequence and struggle more acutely. And so it's incumbent upon us to get our interventions quickly, focus on prevention or rapid rehousing before those chronic conditions take place. But here's the challenge, is just accessing these services or providing culturally competent services that meet people where they are. You mentioned an individual with a unique set of circumstances based on particular meds that are creating problems. Well, we've got to diagnose that, we've got to triage that, and we've got to figure out what's appropriate for that individual. But the most important thing is to stabilize that individual, get them out of the damn tents. That's why a housing first model is foundational. Shelters are important, but they solve sleep. Housing and supportive services solve homelessness. You got to stabilize individuals, then you can deal with the wraparound services. And that's why we have a parallel strategy, a bias towards permanent supportive, but a recognition of this moment of crisis. That means we're going to do everything from those tiny homes to innovative models of housing, be prefab, modular housing, to other strategies that we are incentivizing our budget. By the way, budget last year included $1.75 billion for housing supports. Unprecedented, again, in California's history. And all of that is related to supportive and affordable housing as well. But Mark Galley's here. Perhaps you can talk more specifically to Mark about his vision on behavioral health reform. This is the reason we hired him. And he just put out the most comprehensive behavioral health reform package of any state in this country. It will be a model to the nation. It's bold and big, and we're funding it this year, we hope, with their support, and we think it will be transformative. And God bless you, I'm getting an edited version of that answer. Anybody else?
Mayor Bailey talked about the shelter outside that doesn't quite meet code. Is that the kind of thing that can be fixed?
Yeah. Yeah. Men and women made rules and regulations. Men and women can change them. I hate hearing things like that. I mean, what is it? How many square feet?
6 square feet, 6 inches on the 4 sides.
Yeah. I mean, give me a break. So, Mark Galley, that's Ghaley, said he personally will fix that. That's why you bring these fancy secretaries. You guys pay for him. He's one of them. So, this is exactly the approach we want to take, is one of intentional collaboration. It just if people want to ask why, it's not just a macroeconomic issue of housing. Let's just be candid. The state of California has been nowhere to be found on the damn issue of homelessness. We haven't been focused on this issue. There's a reason things the way they are. It's because we haven't addressed them. It's happened on our watch over the last decade in particular. It's really gotten bad in the last decade. And we were just slow to respond. We had a crisis. Governor Brown did an amazing job balancing the damn budget. We were triaging that. We had a lot of other things that were prioritized, but got in the way of our focus on this. And that's why we're not going to let that continue or neglect advance any longer. And I don't care if there's a downturn in the economy. That's not going to be an excuse for us to walk away from this. We created a $331 million annuity, regardless of recessions, just on legal aid and protection. That was done last year's budget as well because of their support. There are a lot of new things that I think are going to pay great dividends. But the good news, I just want folks to know, last year was setting everything up. This is a year we want to see results. This is a year we want to see people moving off the streets into supportive housing, into navigation centers, which are shelters with enriched services. This is a year we want to start holding all of us accountable to seeing real results.
Governor, how much do you think the situation of the homeless in California can be weaponized in the presidential election against the Democrats?
I think it's being weaponized, and I think that's the way you frame the question, I think is appropriate because it's obvious to any objective observer that that's what unfortunately is happening on Twitter. But we're not waiting for someone to come save the day. We're not waiting for someone on the white horse to come and solve all our problems. We're taking responsibility with a deep sense of urgency. We don't need to be told that there's a problem. We know there's a problem.